So this is a short Unreal Engine 5 tutorial looking at how we might create a blueprint that interacts with a character to quite simply create a scene like this. This is one blueprint that's been copied multiple times across the scene, and a light has been added to that blueprint. So I thought what we'll do is show you what we're heading for, which is this. I'll give you all a quick glance at the blueprint, which is running what we just saw. So in viewport, we've simply got a sphere and a collision box. That collision box is triggering a line of events with a change in light color at the end. The same thing's happening, like this is the trigger to begin, and when the character ends the interaction with the collision box, you have a similar line of code afterwards. So, having seen what it is that we're heading for, we can now delete or close this project and do it all afresh to give you a more in-detailed understanding. So we're going to go File, New Project. We're going to select third-person character, make sure Blueprint's enabled. We'll give this project a name. All spheres new. Create. Wait for this to open. I'm going to just delete out the geometry that's been laid in the scene for us. And what we want to do is create a blueprint with a sphere and a collision box within it. So we right-click in the content drawer, go up to Blueprint class, select Actor. We'll call this Sphere EP. We'll double-click through into here, into the blueprint. We will add a sphere. We could change the scale of that sphere or any of the other qualities, but for now we'll just change this to 0.5 on X, Y, and Z. We will also add a collision ball, box collision, and we'll change the scale of that, the point at which our character will interact with it, to say 10 on all axes. Compile and save. So that's good. That is our viewport setup. What we want to work with now is the code in the event graph. But before we go there, with our collision box selected, we'll go down to On Component Begin Overlap. We want to click this. We'll also want to click On Component End Overlap. So select Begin, go back to Viewport, select collision box, On Component End Overlap. Good. So we've now got a beginning node for our line of code and an end node for our exit line of code. So what do we want to do? We want to cast to third-person character. Cast to BP third-person character. Then we want to create a timeline. Add timeline. That name is fine. We probably want it to play from start. We can double click, add track, float track, right click to add a point near 0, 0. We can't get it quite right, but we can override it once we've set one, 0, 0. We then want to have a second point, add float, and this one we want to be 1, 1. we want the line of these to be also, so that we get a smoother transition, we want to change the length from 5 to 1. We're happy with that. We can go compile and save. It's giving us an error because it wants us to plug something into the object. So other actor into object, we hit compile now, it should be happy. And we want to update this with a set relative location, or set relative location for the sphere. So that's quite helpful because it gives us this sphere. If we didn't add that, of course, we could have just dragged the sphere in here. As you can see, everything that's in our viewport is here. And at the moment, 1 unit of time, 1 unit of movement has been set up in our timeline, which is not enough. That would be negligible. So we want to multiply that by an amount. So we'll type in multiply. And we want to plumb that into just our Z rather than our X, Y, and Z. So we can right click here and split struct pin. Now we've got Z separated, plumb that into here. And now it's much easier to change the amount of movement we've got for our sphere using this multiply node rather than go in here and tweak all the keyframes in our time frame. So let's check that this works. We can close our sphere BP. We need to remember to drag the sphere BP into our scene, or we will have no interaction to work with. And as we approach our sphere, it rises 150. So that's good. We could even move our sphere up to eye height, so we'd move it up to 150. As she approaches, it rises, which is good. But that's it. We now want to ensure that the BP, the blueprint for that sphere, drops in the same nice manner that it rose. So we'll go into our sphere BP, and it's much the same as what we had before. So we can copy paste these nodes. And this time we plug in our end overlap. End overlap, other actor into object. And rather than play from start, when they leave the box, we want it to reverse from end. Good. So compile and save. Into our viewport. And as we approach the sphere rises. If you leave the sphere drops. Good. So that is a simple character provoking an interactive piece of geometry within our Move engine using blueprints. We could add to this, as we had earlier, quite simply a light. So we go back into the viewport, type add, type in light. Spotlight, move that spotlight down and rotate it 90 degrees. We could tune the spread of that light, but it's fine for now, and we'll change the color to, say, a red. Compile and save. And we can see that our light has a red glow to the base. But what we want to happen is as we approach it, that red light to go to, say, green, which it doesn't at the moment. Also, it seems that that red light is staying in the same place. We want that red light to move with the sphere rather than stay on the ground, casting red light onto the character. So why is it not moving? Because we go to our viewport, the spotlight wants to be a child of the sphere. Therefore, the sphere is the parent to the spotlight. Now, as we approach the sphere, the red light moves with it and doesn't light up our character as we pass underneath it, which is good. Now we want to change the colour of that light, which is quite easily done. We go into our blueprint, we go set light colour, and it helpfully says, is it the spotlight that you want to change? Yes, it is. Now, when the character enters the collision box, we want the colour to change to green. Hit compile, hit save. So each time we edit the blueprint, we're coming back into the model space to check that we're happy. So it changes green, but then doesn't change back again. That's easy to fix again. We go into the blueprint. We can copy this, paste it down here. Now, on end overlap, we want the light to change from green back to, say, red. Compile and save. Good. Good. So that's all well and good, but if we want to, we can select our sphere and create a number of these. So we can change the snap to, say, 100, which should help us. We can move our existing sphere to, say, here. And I'm just going to Control-C, Control-V, begin to place these out across our scene. It's a bit of a manual task. And then take these. So there we have a field of spheres, lights, and blueprints. So each one of these spheres is an individual blueprint. There's about, whatever it might be, over 100 versions of that blueprint. So if we change this blueprint, every one of those will change. And as we interact, these change also. So that, in essence, is it. If we feel like these blueprints are updating, it's getting a bit close to her, might cause a bit of anxiety, we could go into the blueprint and rather than have it set to collision box of 10 and 10, we could change that to say 15 and 15. So the sphere rises slightly ahead of the character. like so. We can set the beginning position of our character. Be somewhere more helpful, let's say. Good. So there we go, a simple blueprint to provoke static meshes to move within our scene, depending on how close we are to them. Thank you very much. That's all.